were to take the tents down at night and put them back up in the day, that wouldn't solve your problem, which is the visibility, because we're messy looking, and democracy is a messy process.
I'm not going to address the opinion question, because again, I don't want to monopolize, but the two questions regarding to policy. First of all, there's not one issue, but two issues. There's no structure, day or night, in the park, and there is a curfew, so they're two different things. But I also have a question, which is, how much space do you have to occupy 24 hours a day? Do you have to occupy, you decide that, or could it be a corner? I mean, and I'm not suggesting anything, I'm just asking the question. When you say that you need to occupy a space, some of you have said you need the ability to assemble at 3 o'clock in the morning, and then you sort of suggested, but I could have misheard, that you need a space. So the question is, could you occupy a relatively small space to be an occupied movement?
Visibility, as you said.
Well, I got the visibility part. I mean, how big does the space have to be?
Depends on how big we get.
Okay, so it is not a small space. It really is only a matter of assembly. It is not a matter of holding a space.
It's a matter of maintaining a visual presence, permanent.
I got that. That's easy.
To keep getting your message across, putting people aside, and maybe it wouldn't look so messy, it'd look prettier downtown, but that's the whole point. We want people to see.
So let me just ask a question in response to that, just so, and this kind of follows up on Jeff, so that we have a good understanding of. So if you have unfettered use of Kiener Plaza, unfettered within reason, reasonable use of Kiener Plaza from 6 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, and you have, and you can be a presence on the sidewalk around Kiener Plaza 24 hours a day, and if we were to add a speaker's corner also centrally situated, in which assemblies between the hours of, it would be available 24 hours a day and would be of special use, for assemblies that would occur after curfew when you have to be out of the park and on the sidewalk, but could occupy the corner as a speaker's corner to hold your assemblies and engage in whatever speech with your assembly on the sidewalk around it and in that corner, in a central and visible part of St. Louis. How does that strike people, as being a way of...
That would have to go to the assembly.
You're right. So there's a process. Yeah, I want to so it sounds like what we're doing, and we're at the hour point. There's both a category of people who want to keep talking about a lot of different things, and then there's some more direct conversation about give and take on space and ideas. I'm not going to tell anyone what they should or shouldn't say, but as we go down stack, I think there's a couple questions that have been asked. It might be helpful for people to respond on how they're thinking about what might be possible, either to what Eddie and Jeff's point is, or to other points and ideas that might be out there.
And you can whichever one you want to do is fine with me. I just don't want there to be a misunderstanding. You can express your First Amendment rights. You can march. You can rally within your First Amendment rights. You can use Kiener Plaza like everybody else can use Kiener Plaza. What we're saying is that our rules don't allow structures in the park, and the ordinance says, and I get we disagree on this, but I just want you to understand, so there's no misunderstanding, and we have an ordinance that says that we have a 10 o'clock curfew. So, I'm sure some of the press has reported that we want you out of Kiener Plaza. You can use Kiener Plaza the same way every other citizen can use Kiener Plaza. And we are not trying to, I know that you disagree with us on this because of the restrictions that I mentioned under our rules and regulations, but I did not want there to be any misunderstanding, because I've seen some press reports that said that you couldn't be in the Kiener Plaza, and I don't know where they got that, but they didn't get it. And I get the disagreement on the other two issues.
John Chasnoff was next on stack.
I work at the ACLU, and I have attorneys whispering in my ear about the First Amendment and what it means and what the current status of the law is, and I've had the privilege of being at Kiener Plaza and arguing that issue with folks, and understanding the current status of the law, and also understanding the long tradition of civil disobedience. So I just wanted to say that I do come at this with some understanding about your point of view about the current state of the law and your need to enforce ordinances.
If, by the way, to your point, you know, if you went to a judge and a judge said, this is what the law says, we're going to enforce the law. I mean, we're not, you know, so that's certainly a right under the Constitution.
And I think there's a long tradition of pushing the First Amendment in new directions, and it comes sometimes to civil disobedience and sometimes in the courts. And but I wanted to ask two specific questions that I thought might help clarify the discussion. So the first question, well, I'll ask them both. You've said several times that you want to enforce the ordinances and have an obligation to enforce the ordinances. I haven't heard you say whether or not there is any space in St. Louis that might meet your responsibility and also allow for an occupation similar to what we have going on in Keener Plaza. And then my second point of clarification, the idea of a speaker's corner was thrown out, and but it wasn't elaborated on very much, so we might each have in our mind an idea of what that is. So I thought it might help if you elaborate a little bit more about how that.
I would like to sort of answer both. I'll answer the second one, but I mean, I wanted to elaborate on Speaker's Corner with you guys. Like I said, I've been to Keener Plaza. I see how the process works at the General Assembly. So I wasn't coming with a fully formed opinion and way that it should work. But I put it out there for discussion. I understand that it needs to be voted on twice. But I think that in tradition with civil disobedience, I reread Thoreau's essay last night, and there is a way to I think for both of us to coexist, and I think it's through working out, I just really think it's through working out this Speaker's Corner. And I know it's not just about Speaker's Corner, I know it's about occupying space, but I think that the visibility that's important to you and the message that you're trying to get out, I think it would be more, I mean, personally effective if you were standing on a soapbox and you were marching around Keener Plaza instead of sleeping and maybe possibly getting in dangerous situations. I do applaud the services that you're providing to the homeless and other people, but and I know some of you are trained in that area, and maybe you're training other people, but I mean, I think it's not just, I like residentially challenged better than homeless as well, but I don't think that's the only concern down there. I mean, I think that the Speaker's Corner, whatever you want to call it, that's just the idea I got in my head. I just have a picture of an occupation of people, speaking their mind and people assembling or peacefully around whoever it is speaking and listening.
But I guess what I'm asking is, do you have a specific space in mind? I mean, we might be picturing the little tiny 4x4 foot corner. You might be picturing a larger plaza somewhere.
Well, I'm picturing Hyde Park's Speaker's Corner. That's what's in my head. I know we don't have that, but I mean, it's not small. What'd you say?
I said I haven't been there in 30 years.
I know, it's been 10 for me, but
so I'm just
it's pretty, I mean,
if you have something that we can take
this
back.
is where I would defer to Eddie, honestly.
Well, I think
We're picturing the lobby of Bank of America.
Well, let's just talk about it. I mean, maybe not right here, but I mean, this was Maryland's brainstorm for today, saying, hey, how about this? And it captured our imaginations, and it seemed like it was in keeping with the spirit of what you were doing, and it seemed like something that would be consistent with our obligations, to be even-handed, because I mean, there's a lot of people. I mean, the one gentleman who was standing right there before, we talked about setting a precedent, and how hard this is. I think that's true. I mean, what we do here will have a lot to say about others who, have very different messages from what you have. And so to the extent that we're thoughtful about accommodating in a neutral way people's free speech rights while still maintaining, our parks and public space in ways that are conducive to public safety and good order, that we can accomplish a lot here.
Hey, John, let me give John just a couple specifics. So, there is no perfect solution, okay? So there may be a space for nighttime that is not visible, but then you can come back and be visible during the daytime, or potentially you get a small space that is visible 24 hours a day. I mean, what we've decided not to do is to come here and throw out ideas, because we figured if we thought it was a good idea, you'd automatically think it was bad. You know, so we're trying to throw out some thoughts and get you to be thinking, because, you know, you're in a spot, we're in a spot. If we can work it out, we would prefer it to be that way.
Can I do a quick vibe check?
I had a second question.
What was
I had
it?
asked it already, whether there's any space at all that would meet both your needs and our current, something similar to our current.
Is there a current space where there's not an ordinance that seems to fit both needs?
Well, we don't own that, so, there are some vacant lots, but they're not visible. I mean, they're not downtown. Now, again, that would be for daytime stuff, or nighttime stuff, and that's also, there are some union halls for nighttime stuff. This is where I asked you whether or not you needed to occupy a space 24 hours a day as a symbolic thing, or whether you felt like for 24 hours a day, all of you needed to be assembled together, and whether that also had to be visible and people had to see you sleeping together. You know, and I'm not telling you.
No pun intended.
I mean that, yes, I don't mean that. And, you know, and I'm not going to tell you how to do your business. I'm telling you how I'm doing my business, but I'm not going to tell you how to do your business. I only ask the question to try to better understand what your goals are. And so it's hard for us, John, to answer your question, because we don't really quite understand. Well, it's not that we don't understand. We hear sort of different goals from different folks in the group, and you all sort of have to decide what you want to be, and then see if we can accommodate it. If we can, and if we can't, we can't.
What I'd like to do is just take a quick vibe check here to see if we can't have suspend the stack and have a 5 or 10 minute conversation about our ideas, people's ideas on space that they might have. So give me a thumbs up, mediocre, or thumbs up on talking about space more specifically. Middle, mediocre, block. One block. I think it's consensus. All right, so let's. I'm going to go through the stack, and people should pass if they don't have an idea on space, and we'll come back to it. And if they do have an idea on space,
Do you want us to leave for a few minutes?
I guess it'll be 45%.
More part of this.
all right. So, do you have an idea on space?
I think I do. You're talking to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, Jeff?
You're next on stack.
Yes,
So.
I think I do, because I mean, I've been listening, and we're kind of all kind of saying the same thing, but we're not getting out, or I don't feel like we're getting out to hit the real point of what's been going on here for the past couple months. That started in New York, and now here we are, okay? The first thing I'd like to say is, to every one of you, I have no doubt, and I have full faith, that all of you are very concerned about our people, the American people, taking care of the homeless, doing all you can do. I firmly believe that. What I think, I'm going to speak for myself here, I think what I have been watching for the past 2 months from the outside in is, it's not about just getting a legitimate complaint going and this, that, and the other, and, you know, people are just kind of out here flinging it or anything. What I have been watching in this nation is a nightmare. And I do not care if anybody disagrees with me. It's fine for them to do it. But it is a fact that our government is broken. And it is broken. Our Congress is down to a 9% approval rate, all right? We are broke. This nation is going down. Done. All right? Capitalism itself is falling, which is disgraceful. It's totally disgraceful.